Is Nate Wyatt good enough to beat DDG at the Social Gloves YouTuber vs TikToker boxing event on June 12th? Here is my Nate Wyatt boxing breakdown. There's some serious slim pickings on Nate Wyatt boxing footage, but what I was able to find was a live TikTok from Tayler Holder where Nate Wyatt's just pretty much just hitting pads. One thing I was trying to figure out was when this video was actually posted, because I couldn't trace it back to the TikTok, obviously, because it was a live. But what I did find was someone had actually re-uploaded to YouTube, which is what the footage I have, back in April. And then I did see an interview with Hollywood Fix where Andrew Stafford, who's the head coach for Bryce Hall, Vinny Hacker, Tayler Holder, and also Nate Wyatt, he told the Fix that they started training with Wyatt back in, I think it was like March. So I'm guessing it was probably around March. I maybe as early as February, but most likely probably around that March timeline. But anyways, let's get into this one. And right away, if you just look at this opening footage, we're going to see a common theme here. He's struggling with his hook. He's struggling with that left hook. And you're going to constantly see this when we're looking at Nate Wyatt. And you can just tell he's very stiff in there. He looks very new. He's just a lot of struggle, a lot of struggling. So if we actually look back at this clip and we look a little closer, you can see one thing he's doing. What they're correcting is they want him to throw his hook a little more straight. And he keeps bringing it from like kind of an angle. You know, he's coming from low and to high, and you know they want him to torque his body. Like, well, they're not even actually telling him to torque his body. They're just telling him to make that straight. They should be telling him to be, you know, kind of torquing his hips, generating that power from his, you know, footwork and his hips, and really get that. They correct it by just straightening it out, which is probably gonna be a even, you know, bigger problem for him in the future. But one reason I think he actually is bringing it low is because he is trying to generate more power. Because I think he thinks in his head, you know, I'm not getting that much power here. I'm sure he can feel it when he's punching, you know, the mitt. But he thinks if he brings it up from an angle, you know, he's almost like getting like more torque, more momentum. Where in reality, if they actually just told him to turn his hips, bring his, you know, shoulder back a little more, and bring that from the back, you know, that's when he's really going to generate that power. But no one's really telling him that. But that is the mistake he's making. And we're going to keep seeing that mistake from him. So in this next clip, we're actually looking at him. We see his back, so you can't see a lot. But what you can see is he's putting a ton of weight on that front foot. And it's making him kind of overcommit to the punches. You can even see he kind of gets off balance sometimes. He has to like reset his feet, which isn't the worst thing. I'm glad he's resetting there, but he is getting off balance, and that's because, again, he's not really using that footwork, so his body is going a certain direction, but his feet aren't really following, which makes him kind of almost like slip over himself. But he's really overcommitting those punches, which could be a problem, you know, in a fight like with DDG, because, you know, if he goes, you know, too far in, DDG's right there. He could counter, you know, with a nasty uppercut, a hook, you know, even just, you know, a straight, you know, really anything. You know, the counter is going to be there for DDG. This next clip is interesting. It's not really what we see, but it is kind of what we see. But because it's his back, it's actually what we hear. You kind of hear Tayler kind of correcting him. And you know what he's correcting him on? That hook. He's still struggling with that same combination with that hook too. He's struggling.
Let that hook come out. Let that hook come out wide. Come on.
So in this next clip, we're actually going to hear something interesting again. Let's hear what Nate Wyatt says here.
Second day we out here getting work.
So yeah, he says second day we're out here getting work. So that makes me think that this is only his second day of training, and if this was in March, he's got a long way to go, you know. And most guys who are at this stage, you know, whenever this was at this stage, 2 days in, they don't have a fight in 3 months. You know, they're not preparing for a fight in 3 months. You know, most people that are in his stage, and I've been there. I've been there. Training for only 2 days, and I probably looked a lot like that, to be quite honest. You know, if I'm being honest, like I probably, you know, maybe even worse. But the thing is I wasn't training for a fight. You know, I was taking my time. Where, you know, Nate Wyatt, he's kind of rushing into this thing, and you know, I'm sure he's making enough money that's making him rush into it. But you know, this is kind of the problem that he's at. Where if the question is, you know, is he good enough to beat DDG? This makes you, you know, makes you think a little. So then we go to this next clip, and this is just bad. I mean, you can just tell by his stance, he's just so stiff, his footwork, the actual punches itself, he's still throwing he's still throwing that hook the same way he was when we first started this video. it's just an all-around struggle. And again, if this is the second day, that's totally typical, and I get it. But again, he's got to fight, so you know, you kind of hope that he'd be a little further. You know, especially if you're on his team, you're hoping he'd be a little further. You know, that he maybe start training earlier than what he is. If that's the case, if the timeline is what the problem is. And in this last clip, this is probably what bugs me the most. So he's kind of throwing the same combination, and he pretty much all he does is he just does it really fast, does them all together. It's still very poor technique. He's still not generating a ton of power. He's not really doing anything that great. He's just doing it faster, and they're all hyping him up, which I think is very bad because you're giving this guy false confidence. Where I think in the beginning, obviously, you don't want to break him down to where he has no confidence. But I think you also want to, kind of shoot it straight with him and let him know where he's at in this progress, especially in the beginning, because that's when you can really cut out those mistakes, and those mistakes aren't going to become habits. And I feel like with Wyatt, he's going to have a lot of bad habits that we're going to see on June 12th if he continues to train like this. If he's been training like this, he's going to have some issues. So that's really all I have on Wyatt. But I think to really answer this question, is he good enough? I think we have to look at DDG real quick. And so I did find a video from DDG back in March. Now, there's tons of footage on DDG. He's been putting a ton out there. He's been getting a lot of hype, too. He actually looks really good. He's got good footwork. His hands are decent. His defense is all right. I would say as far as like a lot of the guys who just started, he's doing pretty good. He's got really good footwork for someone who hasn't been doing it that long. And so it's literally, we're going to look at one little clip here, and it's going to take us about, I think, 10 seconds to kind of see here. So yeah, I'm just going to show you this kind of short little clip here. He's got a decent jab. He's got his hands up. He's constantly moving. You can see he's comfortable in the ring, a lot more comfortable than Wyatt was. He's not, his footwork's a lot better. Like I say, he's got decent footwork. And he's not just like standing still. The trainer's actually like moving with him. They're getting him used to the ring, where they weren't really doing that with Wyatt. And maybe that's because the second day and they just want to get the punches down. But it just looks bad. It just does not look good. Like I said, it's the second day, so we can't be awful to this guy. I think I gotta cut him a little break. So it is the second day, and I totally get that. But for a guy who is gonna fight at that point of when we think this was 3 months, I think you gotta push him a little more than you would for your average person who's just learning. If you have a fight coming up and there's money on the line, there's reputation on the line, I think you gotta push him a little harder than maybe what they're pushing him in there. But at that, I'm sure these guys know Wyatt, better than I do. So maybe that's how he learns the best. If you're a little easier with him, that kind of thing. I don't know the full story. But to answer the question, is Nate Wyatt good enough to beat DDG? I think you guys know where I'm going with this. No, he is not. I do not believe Nate Wyatt is good enough to beat DDG on June 12th. I see DDG running through Wyatt. So guys, if you didn't agree with me, that's totally fine. Still put that in the comments below. If you did agree with me, great. Even if you agreed with, that he's not good enough, maybe there's some other reasons that I didn't see that maybe he's still struggling with. What are some things that he's doing better? I would say that his defense was really good. I don't think I really pointed out too many things he was doing good. His defense, he has hands up a lot. I do think DDG's defense is better, but if I had to pick one positive for Wyatt, it's definitely, he kept his hands up. Even when he would drop one hand, he usually had that one hand up, which in boxing is a good tool because, in MMA, obviously, you're covering a little less, but in this sake of boxing, he's got that one glove that's decent protection, especially with these guys in the beginning stages. I think that will be good for Wyatt. That's one thing he's got going for him. But yeah, I do not think he's good enough to beat DDG. Like I say, you guys put in the comments below if you disagree or if you agree. And thank you so much, guys, for watching. I really do appreciate you guys taking the time, and we'll see you next time.